Mm. Hi guys, just finding my seating right here. Welcome to the show. Today we have a very interesting show and we have a guest on our show as well. So today we have two people that we're expecting. Today we're talking about the hero of Africa. They call him the Lion of Africa, and his name is Ibrahim Traoré. And we're asking a question: who is Ibrahim Traoré? Really, who is he? Yeah. Hope you can hear me clearly. If not, we're going to try and see whether we can get a microphone on here. But in the meantime, just bear with us as I'm trying to set up. I've got some new gadgets, and I'm hoping that it will help with our audio as much as possible. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So today we are discussing Ibrahim Traoré, and we want to find out from the experts, who is this gentleman? Where did he start from? It looks like he just emerged. He just emerged from somewhere in Burkina Faso, a little tiny country. It's not even a tiny country, but it's a country that people didn't really know much about because, first of all, language barriers and the fact that it's in the Sahel region. We hear about Niger. We hear that it was a poor country, but really, is it a poor country? We need to find out as Africans who we are dealing with. What our countries are like. We hear that the continent of Africa is much larger than we are previously told, like what we are taught. We are taught that Africa is down in the south. We are taught that it's a smaller continent, but we're hearing that actually Africa is huge. It's massive. And then we have this gentleman who is only 36 years old, and he's just basically taken over, literally taken over in African politics. And so he's influencing the geopolitics in the Sahel region of Africa, and not just the Sahel, but all over Africa. He is a movement. So I see you all there. I see 5 of you watching. Before I continue, I will also invite my other colleague here who is preparing himself. His name is Joseph Nyagbo, and he's actually from the Ivory Coast. And he will be very useful and instrumental in helping us understand about that region's politics. Why? Because there's a language barrier, like I mentioned before, and the fact that he's also a linguist. So before I say too much, I want to say welcome. If you want to contribute to the live stream, you just go into the comments section. You'll see that there's a link, StreamYard, and you can get into that link, and come on. I believe other people are going to be joining us. Yes, Susan is actually in the team. Let me invite Susan. Karibu, Susan. Are you ready backstage?
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very well. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Sorry, I've had
No,
a
it's
long
okay.
day.
Actually, we're running a little bit late here, but we're so happy that we've got so many people interested in this subject, and they're there. They're like at least 6 people there. And guys, want you to call people because today is going to be a very informative show. Let us know what you want to hear about Ibrahim Traoré, and okay. So today we're going to talk about Ibrahim Traoré in terms of, we want to understand the geopolitics in the region. Who is he collaborating with? How did he come to power? What are the kind of risks around him? Why is it that everybody is so concerned about Ibrahim Traoré? What is it why is there this desire to get rid of such an effective leader? Why? Those are the kinds of questions that we want to answer. And before I go on, let me first of all introduce the main guest on the show. Just come here. He'll be sharing my screen for today. He'll be sharing my screen. And his name is Joseph Nyagbo.
Yeah.
Otherwise known as Zapayoro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will let him talk to you while I also try and organize the mics and things like that. Okay. All right. Welcome. I don't need this. Yeah. Okay. So let me just shift the computer a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Let me sit in the Miss St.
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you,
Yeah.
Joseph.
Hi, Susan.
Yeah, how are you?
Yeah. Good.
Long time.
Yeah, long time. Yeah. So yeah, I'm back again with those topics from about West Africa. But I
Yeah,
think this one is about Africa.
yeah.
Yeah. Not specifically about
Looking
West
forward. Looking forward. Looking forward.
Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's my pleasure. So, well, speaking about Ibrahim Traoré, it's important to mention that to talk about the context, of West Africa and the geopolitics in West Africa, and see how he emerged in this geopolitics, and how he impacts the geopolitics. What impact his action bring in the geopolitics. So I will start by talking about the geopolitics, because to be honest, Ibrahim Traoré was, I would say, a nobody. He was a fighter. He was a soldier of the Burkina army, and as many Burkina militaries, is a patriot, because patriotism is really big in Burkina Faso since the days of Thomas Sankara. So nobody knew about him, and he emerged. As he said himself, he said he was just a soldier fighting terrorism in Burkina Faso, and he found himself traveling in different parts of Burkina Faso, where he saw his countrymen, Burkina people, eating grass, literally. No food, no water, eating leaves from the bush. We saw people being killed in Burkina Faso, especially in the northern part of Burkina Faso. So many years, people were killed. They had nobody to defend them. So they had to accept to submit to terrorist groups. So this leads us to the context, the context itself. How Burkina Faso, what is happening in Burkina Faso in particular, and what is happening in the Sahel region. So, since 2022, there's a new reality in West Africa. There's a new geopolitical actor, which is called the alliance of Sahelian states. The first named it the alliance of Liptako Gourma, and now it is a confederation. It has become a confederation. They recently came up with a national anthem, no, an anthem for the confederation. So a confederal anthem, yeah, that they sing in Burkina Faso. They sing at the same time in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and in Niger. So it is three countries that were suffering from terrorism. Mali, for example, which is the largest country in West Africa, was occupied by 80% by terrorist groups. Burkina Faso was also occupied. Niger was occupied. And the other thing they had in common was the occupation, military occupation by French army and by American armies, French and American armies. So they decided via coup d'etat, they got rid of the presidents, respective presidents. So Mali was the first one, Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta, who was a puppet of France, was removed by the army, and Assimi Goïta took over. In Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré removed Sandaogo Damiba. Damiba was a puppet of France again. And in Niger, Bazoum was removed by the army, and the General Chani took over. So it was some kind of I would say, a Sahelian spring, from our perspective, where the three countries got rid of the puppet presidents, and then patriot military took over. Well, this is the African perspective, because in many countries in Europe, in the West, they are depicted as dictators, and we can come back to that term, dictator, and junta. We can come back to those terms and see how to really grasp the meaning, and depending on the context, what they're really worth, the value of these terms. So why do I say it's a geopolitical actor? Because there used to be, in every part of the world, there are powers that dominate by influencing the politics of every country there, by influencing the political reality, the international relationship. And in West Africa, in that part of West Africa, from the Sahel to North Africa, there used to be Gaddafi for many decades. Libya, led by Gaddafi, was a very key actor. Algeria is another one as well, because Algeria is one of the strongest army. After the Libyan army of Gaddafi, it was the strongest army in the region. But okay, Gaddafi is no longer there, so Algeria has taken over. Very influential actor, Algeria. There's also Nigeria, which is a huge country, about 200 million people, and although it is not, the army is not as equipped as the Algerian army, Nigeria has a very strong population, and as we know, the war is not really led by armies. War is conducted by nations. So if you have a strong population, if you fight a country with a small population, even if they have a powerful army, eventually the price of blood they pay will make that army weaker and weaker, and then you can literally overwhelm them. So Algeria, Nigeria, and there are other actors, but these are not African actors. There's first France. France used to occupy the Sahel region, and France is the dominant actor, the dominant power in West Africa. It has been the dominant power in West Africa, controlling literally most countries in Africa, controlling the currencies, having military bases in many countries, including in Ivory Coast. And you also have the US with what they call AFRICOM, the African Command, because US has different military bases around the world. They have about 800 military bases. And in West Africa, they have about 10 military bases as well. So US is very influential there. And the proof is that when it was decided to remove Gaddafi, to overthrow Gaddafi, it is the US and France which were who took the initiative, and NATO was also contributed to it. So these are key actors. Then there are those actors, especially the foreign actors, America and France. There are countries that are ready to serve their interest, which we usually say called puppet countries. And we have Ivory Coast, we have Togo. Ghana is a bit neutral, but sometimes Ghana plays the game of France and US. Then you have Senegal that plays the game, but now it looks like it's better, but still it's an ally of France. Guinea. So you have two categories. Some actors that play the game of France and the US 100%. You have like Togo, Benin under Patrice Talon, so Togo under Fonya Singbe, Oyadema, Benin under Patrice Talon, Guinea-Bissau under Sissoko Ambalo, and Senegal is now a bit neutral, but Senegal used to be under Macky Sall, he used to be a strong ally of France. So now you have some countries that play double game. Oh, so did I mention Togo? Yeah, Togo. Sorry, Togo plays the double game as well. Sorry. So Togo is an ally of France, but sometimes they seem to understand, the goals of the Sahelian countries. So, but the number one country that ally of France that really ready to serve France is my country, the Ivory Coast. The Ivory Coast is a key ally. First, it's the strongest economy in Francophone West Africa. So it has influence, it has power. It has about almost half of the monetary mass, of Francophone Africa. And it has the infrastructures as well that can be used. And so these countries serve the powers like France and the US.
Yeah. Michael says there is no excuse to be an ally of France, USA, or any Western or Arabic countries. They all enslaved us and colonized us and are stealing from us all till this day and have no respect for us. Couldn't agree with you more, Michael. Couldn't agree with you more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are your views about that? Susan, you can feel free to interject anytime. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to sort out the lighting here. You can see it's a bit dark, eh? Pole sana. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, so these
what do you feel about what Michael is saying? He said there's no excuse to be an ally of France, but is it realistic for African governments, leaders? Well, I think that's what Traoré is trying to do. He's trying to bring back the sovereignty of nations.
Yeah.
He's moving towards nationalism, actually continentalism, I think, isn't it?
Pan-Africanism, which is sovereignty, being pro-sovereignty of African countries. Mm-hmm. It has been a very strong ideology in Burkina Faso, and it has really gained influence, supporters in West Africa for the past years, since the death of Gaddafi, definitely. Many Africans have opened their eyes and realized that they need sovereignty. So Burkina Faso particularly, they have a history of sovereignty and patriotism and Pan-Africanism. It started under Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara in the 80s. He was a young president in his 30s. He achieved great things for Burkina Faso. He fought against hunger. He won the battle against hunger. So Burkina Faso became, food-wise, they became self-sufficient. He promoted education. So almost every Burkina child had access to education. He promoted the rights of women. He was a true socialist president, and he became a hero. Unfortunately, he didn't stay long in power. He was killed in 1887. And
1887.
Yeah, sorry, 1987. Sorry, 1987. And we suspected, of course, the president of Ivory Coast, who was a puppet of France. France itself was suspected, and a couple of actors, including Gaddafi. But we'll talk about Gaddafi another time. That's one of the dark side of Gaddafi, that wanting to dominate the region. Yeah. So Sahel is key.
Did anybody know that Gaddafi had a dark side? We all hailed Gaddafi as a leader, as a Pan-Africanist, as a person, as a liberator of Africa. But one thing we didn't realize is that he also had interests, I guess.
Yeah.
Tell us the evidence of that.
Well, Gaddafi.
Oh, so that we're not just like, misleading people here. Yeah.
Hope
our lighting has improved a bit. Yeah. Okay.
Every state has its own interest, and Gaddafi was ruling a state. He had to be powerful. He was ruling a very centralized state. He had control of his own country, but he also needed influence. So a state also needs to influence other countries around. It's important for a state to influence, because if you only control what is happening within your country, and you have no impact, no influence on what is happening around your country, then you are exposed to many things. See? So, for example, you can have a positive impact. For example, let's say if Tanzania, there's instability in Tanzania, there's war in Tanzania, I think it is the role of the Kenyan president to go and contribute to stability in Tanzania. Yeah, but
are there countries that he was actually seemingly interested in?
But the influence of Gaddafi in the neighboring countries has been kind of I would say negative. Yeah, really negative. I would say negative because it was about destabilizing to make sure that those countries. I wouldn't say it was some kind of imperialism of Gaddafi. I would call it some kind of regional imperialism. The countries that were destabilized by Gaddafi were Niger and Chad, basically Niger and Chad. He really wanted to influence those countries, so he was hosting rebellions, hosting sometimes even terrorist groups, to attack those countries. Yeah, but it was that's the game of states, many countries do that. When I mentioned the actors in the Sahel region, I mentioned Algeria. Algeria is the same. This is why I think there's this real question. It's a real debate that we should have between African countries. I mean, sub-Saharan African countries and Northern African countries like Morocco, Egypt, Algeria, even Libya in the future. Is that those countries tend to contribute a lot to the destabilization of sub-Saharan countries. But Gaddafi, after he did what he did to Niger and Chad, he eventually contributed to the for the unification of Africa. He created a bank, African Monetary Fund, and African Monetary Fund, and
he was trying to get Africa to have one currency.
One currency,
It was about getting all African states
to have one Development Bank,
Development Bank,
an African Monetary Fund,
and an African currency.
The headquarters were in Cameroon, one in Cameroon, one in Libya.
So, he also wanted to introduce the gold standard.
Yeah, exactly. So he was really contributing, but for a long time he has been really influencing those countries in a negative way. I mean, Niger and Chad.
Okay.
But
so going back to Ibrahim Traoré.
Yeah, I just want to finish about Algeria. Because I'm still talking about the context. Apologies. Algeria is another actor, but Algeria plays a double game. It's an ally of France, sometimes an ally of Russia. It plays as an ally of Russia. But what the negative thing that Algeria does in those countries, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, is that Algeria had a problem with terrorism. During the 90s, there's an Islamic party that won the elections in Niger, in Algeria. It was called the Islamic Front, le Front Islamique du Salut. So it's like the Salvation, the Islamic Front of Salvation. They won the elections, and the government decided to cancel the elections because an Islamic group was going to take over. So they started fighting. So a true civil war broke out in Algeria from 1992 to 2002. There was civil war in Algeria. So eventually, officially, it is said that the government army won the war, but actually they ended up in a compromise. So those terrorist groups which were fighting the army in an asymmetric war, I mean, using guerrilla terrorist, tactics, they came to an arrangement with the government that they could still exist and carry on with their activities like drug trafficking. That's what terrorist groups do. Kidnapping, cigarette trafficking, all those things, they can still do them, but not within the borders of Algeria. And Algeria offers them a safe place where they can be hosted. I mean, if they go to operate, they go to do their thing in Mali, in Burkina Faso, or in Niger. They can do those things, drug trafficking, etc., and then go back. If they are pursued by the army, they can run and go back and be hosted by Algeria.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a problem we have in West Africa. It is the game of Algeria as well. So that's it. So why those three countries, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, are at the center of where are they targeted by powers? So Sahel is a very important region. Now we're really getting deep into the geopolitics.
Mm-hmm.
Sahel is a desert that stretches from the Atlantic Ocean to the Red Sea. You see that vast region.
Mm-hmm.
So by road, you can travel from Senegal, Atlantic Ocean, and go to Sudan, through Chad, Burkina Faso, Mali. Then those countries within the Sahel, they have, the area is about 3,600,000 square kilometers. So imagine. Then the population is 70 million people. All those three countries together. And the resources, they have oil, petroleum, they have petroleum. Niger, especially Niger, has uranium, which was used in Europe all those years. They have gold, they have so many natural resources. So it's a very strategic region. So that's why you had France occupying the place, and you have AFRICOM of America occupying the place. So since they have been kicked out of those countries, what they are trying to do now, they are trying to find places, other countries around Nigeria and around the Sahel countries, so that they can use those countries as bases to put the pressure on Sahel countries.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's it. So it is in that context that Ibrahim Traoré emerged as the president of Burkina Faso. So I think I've depicted the big picture, huh?
Mm-hmm.
The powers that are, the main actors. You have the puppets who serve those actors, etc. Okay, so it's a very big picture and it's a bit complex. Mm-hmm. But if you ask me questions, I can go into details.
Yeah. I have a few requests for those who are watching. Kindly give us likes. Kindly call your friends, ask them to come and watch. We'll continue to have these geopolitical discussions. We have just reinstated them again. They'll be every Wednesday. Hopefully, we've got somebody here committed to do them. Susan, if you have any questions or any comments, please go ahead. Otherwise, I think we're doing well, aren't we, guys? We're doing well. Okay, Michael, if you have any more comments, please go ahead, ask questions, make comments. And also remember, guys, you can go to the StreamYard and ask questions in there. It's good to have like an interactive session. So feel free to ask the questions. Feel free to also contribute what you know. Yeah, we're also learning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So speaking of Ibrahim Traoré, like I said, he emerged in that situation. And why is Burkina Faso, especially Burkina Faso, the main target of the adversaries of the Sahel countries? because there's Niger, which is a big country. There's Mali, which is a big country. But why Burkina Faso? Why Ibrahim Traoré is the main target? Yeah, that's the impression we have, that Ibrahim Traoré is the main target. So in the first place, if I had a map here, I would have shown. Actually, I wanted to show a map, but then it's not possible now. Well, anyway, usually
we can show a map. I can look for a map at some point.
Geopolitics, it is good to explain with maps, but anyway, we can do that another time as well. So if you have a map somewhere, you will notice that Burkina Faso is at the heart of the Sahel countries. You have Niger on one side, big country, and Mali on the other side. So if you hit the heart of Burkina Faso, then you can dismantle the Sahel countries easily. It'll be easy from the heart, from the middle. The other thing is that Ivory Coast shares a border with Burkina Faso, and I told you the number one ally of France and the US is Ivory Coast. By the way, that's the place where the American general, his name is Langley, that where it threatened Ibrahim Traoré was from the Ivory Coast. He went there and he signed an agreement with the president of Ivory Coast to have a military basis in the north of Ivory Coast. This means in the south, just near the border of Burkina Faso, the Americans have a military basis there. So Ivory Coast, especially the president of Ivory Coast, he has his own plans for Burkina Faso. Because for those who have heard about what happened in Ivory Coast in 2011, I told you about the way the president was overthrown in Ivory Coast, and Ouattara, his name is Ouattara, the new president, who was imposed by France and the NATO and the US. The Burkina Faso used to be the base from which he attacked the country, because it's through a rebellion that he took the power in Ivory Coast. So the same way you have Kagame in Rwanda, who use Uganda as a base to attack in Rwanda. The same way in Ivory Coast you had Ouattara, who was using Burkina Faso as a base from which he attacked Ivory Coast. So Ouattara, in this situation where he has been imposed on a country, as much as many people don't know, I mean, some people might think that he's doing a good job because he built some roads there, and but Ouattara, the majority, he's a friend of France. The majority of Ivorians don't like him. They don't want him. So what is happening is that he needs that base. He needs Burkina Faso, but unfortunately, he has lost it because Ibrahim Traoré has taken over. Ibrahim Traoré came and overthrew the puppet of France, who was Damiba, who was a friend to Ouattara, of course, because they are both allies of France. So Sandaogo Damiba was the president before Ibrahim Traoré, and he was serving the interests of France, the same way Ouattara in Ivory Coast is serving the interests of France. So Damiba in Burkina Faso has been overthrown by Ibrahim Traoré, and he goes to Ouattara. He's supported by Ouattara. He goes there to Ivory Coast all the time. But Ouattara absolutely needs to overthrow Ibrahim Traoré to get back control on Burkina Faso. So that's why Burkina Faso is the main target.
Yeah. And also, what is the link with Thomas Sankara?
Okay. So, like I said, Thomas Sankara in the 80s, he was a symbol of hope for Africans. It came with a very original socialist, with socialist ideas, fighting for the rights of women, very egalitarian society where even men were forced to go to do the shopping. and women will stay a day. One day there was a day in the week where women will stay home, and men will go to to do shopping, go to the market. Everybody has access to education. He fought against hunger. He said, "I'd rather everybody has drinking water than some have what you call that, champagne. Champagne is a very luxurious drink, yeah. And then if you have champagne, I'd rather everybody has potable water." See? So Sankara achieved a lot of things for Burkina Faso, and he was young, so he was a captain. He was captain like Ibrahim Traoré. He was young, and he was fighting for sovereignty as well. Yeah, that was Sankara. So many things.
What lessons?
So Sankara left that in the psyche of Burkina people, and even of African people. He left that that memory, and that hope, for sovereignty, and equality. So Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré is from Burkina Faso. So there have been that spirit, that mindset has been fed by people like Sankara. So many people say that it is the new Sankara, or Sankara, it's some kind of reincarnation of Sankara, actually, Ibrahim Traoré. But he has learned from what happened to Sankara, because Sankara was killed, and he learned the lesson. So he's tougher than Sankara.
What did he?
Another Sankara.
How was Sankara killed? And therefore, what is the lesson that Traoré has learned and maybe is trying to avoid the same happening to him?
Yeah, okay. Sankara was he was very loyal to his guys. I mean, the people he came to power with, and his closest friend, like a brother, was called Blaise Compaoré. Blaise Compaoré is the one who overthrew Sankara, who killed Sankara. Many people warned him that Blaise Compaoré is conspiring against you, and he said, no, don't say that, because if it is true, I can't do nothing about it. Blaise Compaoré knows everything about my government, everything about every secret, but Blaise Compaoré actually eventually killed Sankara. So
was he the military?
Yes, Blaise Compaoré is another military. They were both military. They were both in the army. They were friends, and they came into power via a coup d'état, of course, in 1983. But Sankara had been arrested by the government at that time. Yeah, he had been arrested by the government. The president was Nyamiogo, and then he was in prison. When Blaise Compaoré led the coup, it is Blaise Compaoré who led the coup and called Sankara, because Sankara was so charismatic in the army, and the youth loved him. Blaise Compaoré said, "Okay, you come and become the president, and I will manage the army."
Oh,
so
and then in the end, he went and betrayed him.
And betrayed Sankara.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, so that's what happened. So Ibrahim Traoré learned from it, and Ibrahim Traoré.
A few Brutus.
Yeah?
It's like the Roman history.
Yeah, exactly.
Was...
Yeah, Brutus. Yeah, exactly. Brutus, like we said, "Tuco que mi fili." I mean, in Latin, "You to my son, you to my son, you kill me." Yeah, the son of Caesar. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but these ones, they were friends. They were friends. Yeah. So, what Ibrahim Traoré learned is that there's no two captains in one boat. There's only one captain. So what happened? What Ibrahim Traoré did was very interesting. Is that before Ibrahim Traoré, there was a guy who was very famous. Another military who was very famous, who had been arrested. His name is Zungrana. Zungrana had been arrested because of attempt. Yeah.
Oh, attempted coup. How many coups has this country been through?
Yeah, Burkina Faso, we count nine coups.
Since when?
Since 1960, 9 presidents have been overthrown in Burkina Faso. It's a very similar story with Nigeria.
So they never
Nigeria.
come. They never come by
Only-
regular election, democratic election.
Only one.
Only
came
one.
by democratic election. His name is Roch Kabore. But Kabore didn't do anything good. Didn't do much for the country. You know. So well, there's we have in Africa we have that that perception of we have that concept of electoral democracies. You know, yeah. So it's like elections are enough to say that somebody is a Democrat or democratic came into power democratically. It's not enough. It's not enough. Not because you won the election that you have legitimacy. The elections can be rigged, and that's what happened there. Yeah. So actually, because after Blaise Compaoré was overthrown from the power, okay, let's go back to history first. So there have been 9 coups, and in most coups there was no bloodshed. The only coup where somebody was killed, it was the coup against Thomas Sankara, because he was so charismatic, so popular that Blaise Compaoré could not let him live. If he had left him, if I arrested him, then the people maybe would have taken to the street to say we want Sankara. When Sankara died, imagine you can imagine, that's one example. And when Sankara died, the only possessions Sankara had was a bike, old-fashioned bicycle, a guitar, a guitar and a bicycle. That's all he had as property. Then, of course, he had a house where his wife was living and children. Nothing in his bank account. So, a guitar and a bicycle.
He's sounding a lot like Ibrahim Traoré.
Ibrahim Traoré, when he came, he said, "I will keep my salary as a military, but as a president, I get no salary. I want my people to contribute so that we can buy weapons and ammunition for the military. So myself, I will contribute. I will reduce the salary of Sankara did that to reduce the salary of civil servants, reduce the salaries of ministers or members of the government, so that we can contribute to protect the country. Myself, I'm not taking my salary. That was Sankara himself did. So Sankara had nothing. Ibrahim Traoré also has no property.
Okay. So the lesson that Ibrahim Traoré learned, now going back to that, is that what did he do with the previous guy?
Zungrana. Okay,
Zungrana.
So when Zungrana was very popular, but when Ibrahim Traoré came, everybody was expecting that Ibrahim Traoré would get Zungrana out of prison and let him free and operate, get back to the army. But he didn't quite do that. Zungrana was freed from prison, but he was like in a house arrest, in a house where he can't do much. He cannot talk to the public too much, And he was interviewed by journalists, and they said, "Well, how do you explain what is happening to you?" He said, "Well, that's politics. It's like that."
There's a gentleman's understanding.
Understanding.
Then there's only one captain on the ship.
Only one captain on the ship. You can't have two. So Ibrahim Traoré was new.
So
like
that's
I
the
said
lesson.
from the beginning. He was not popular when he came. He came out of nowhere, So he didn't have that charisma. Maybe he had the charisma.
They didn't know him.
They didn't know him, so he didn't have popularity. So he had to build his popularity, and at that stage, he needed to be the only captain on the ship, not allow other people to come. So now he's very popular. Now, who knows about Zungrana? Nobody now talks about Zungrana anymore.
No.
Zungrana is free, but nobody talks about him.
Yeah. Susan, do you have a comment there? She looks like she wants to say something. Susan.
Well, I was going to go back to, you mentioned that there were 9 coups in Burkina Faso, and we know that how does this affect? We know that Traoré came in through a bloodless coup, of course. How does that affect recognition by the AU of Burkina Faso?
Oh, okay. Well, usually those institutions condemn. That's automatic. They condemn the coups. It's like that. They condemn, but reality, to be realistic, usually the previous president has already resigned, because when you arrest him, you force him to resign. He has already resigned, or he's in prison, so he can't do much, So they just accept the situation, they take act, and they decide to say let's negotiate, let's work with the new government. So it's like that, but don't forget, but don't remember that there's always double standard. Double standard unfortunately, the AU also has double standard. You know that in Niger, for example, the AU condemned, the AU endorsed the military intervention that was going to be led on Niger. The EU endorsed it, ECOWAS endorsed it, and many countries in West Africa were ready to send the armies there. But a few weeks later, in Gabon, there was a coup. And the AU didn't say anything. They didn't, because France wanted to intervene in Niger. And France was encouraged to intervene in Niger by the AU, by ECOWAS, and by the Kenyan president as well. Right? That's why he came out and started talking about democracy, Ruto. Yeah. But in Gabon, France supported the coup in Gabon. The AU went quiet because France supported it. So we are not free at all. It is really, really, really disappointing. The AU is really, really disappointing. I have to say that. So France agrees with the coup. The AU also goes quiet. And no African president says nothing, including Ruto. He didn't say anything about Gabon. He only complained about Niger, because Niger, it was somebody that France did not control. So double standard, happened.
Yeah.
But in general, coups are not normally in the functioning of a nation, of a state, coups are not a good thing, because first of all, the administration is changed like that, public administration, they change. So the accumulated expertise tends to go, trust, sorry, trust in the country on the perspective of international partners, goes down. Security. We have so many issues, when there are coups. It doesn't really help the country. But if what we noticed in Africa throughout history is that some coups that result in the dismantling of a system of oppression are quite positive for the people. Yeah, we have the coup of Gaddafi, against the previous regime that was oppressing impoverished Libyan people. We have the Sahel countries, where you had puppets like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger. Those countries have been impoverished. The people were hungry, nothing. And then terrorist groups came now to take over. So those coups have been, have turned out to be quite positive, for these countries. Now we talk about Nigeria. Now everybody talks about Burkina Faso. The GDP in Burkina Faso increased. I think it was in 2002, just before Traoré came into power, it was about $18 billion. And now it is more than 20. Just in 2 years, he has increased the GDP of Burkina Faso. He has built so many hospitals. He has built roads. He has built factories for processing tomato, for processing milk, processing products, food products in Burkina Faso. He has decided that Burkina people, be it the people of the court, the judiciary, their gowns are now made of the material,
Yeah,
the
traditional
fabric,
cloth.
traditional cloth.
Yeah.
in
Even
Burkina
school
Faso.
uniform.
School uniform.
Yeah.
You see, so he has achieved so many things, but it is after a coup. After a coup, he came into power.
Yeah.
But the president who was elected, the only president of Burkina Faso who was elected, his name is Roch Kabore. Roch Kabore stayed there for almost 10 years. Burkina Faso did not move. In Mali, we saw the same thing. So many presidents, okay, some presidents were elected. The last one was Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. It is under Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta that Mali was occupied, completely occupied, 80% by terrorist groups. So it's not that I don't agree with democracy, but I think the most important thing, it is to ensure the security of the people, the continuity of the state, and then we can now establish democracy, come back to constitutional order. Yeah.
Okay, there's this gentleman, Michael Royal. He says, the people in Northern African countries, another thing as well, is that they are colonizers and the descendants of them. They will never be on Africa's side. They basically take over all that area of Africa. The colonization, of Africa by, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco,
Oh yeah,
by foreigners.
Yeah, back in history. Yeah, back
historically.
Historically, yeah.
Egypt.
Historically, yeah. Yeah, historically, yeah. But at some point, some of them, some leaders, for example, Nasser in Egypt.
Like you lived in Morocco.
Yeah.
He lived in Morocco, so he knows the area pretty well.
You
know the area pretty well, and how it's the governance and how it's
but Morocco is an ally of France and the US. So you can't expect much from Morocco regarding the liberation of sub-Saharan African countries. They're just taking over Morocco. In that instance, I would say that what he's saying is quite right, because Morocco plays that role. Even in Ivory Coast, where I come from, when we were under attack by imperialist power, Morocco was supporting them. But some leaders, for example, during the days of Nasser was an Egyptian president. He was working in close collaboration with Kwame Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba to create an Pan-African state. Nasser was working for that, The same way Gaddafi as well. Gaddafi, after he had been disappointed by the Arab nations, because he wanted to join the Arab nations in the first place.
Arab League.
The Arab League, exactly. He came back to Africa. He reverted to Africa, and he tried to build confederate Africa. So some might contribute, but there's that tendency that exists, exactly, For example, nowadays, apart from Ivory Coast, which is a West African country, and Nigeria as well. Nigeria was also putting the pressure on the Sahel countries, which is understandable, because Nigeria, of course, it has been the biggest economy, the largest economy in Africa, in Africa, before South Africa, and then I think Egypt. But Nigeria has never played its role, really. It has not played its role in Africa the way you have Ethiopia, that tries to be influential and play a positive role. So Sahel countries are going to take over. They have the resources, they have everything to take over, to become the power in West Africa. So, we understand that Nigeria might not feel very good about it, but it is up to them. They could have joined Sahel countries as well, because they share so much. For example, the Hausa population is shared, between Nigeria and Niger. And can you imagine that Nigeria was one of the countries that wanted to attack, to go to war against Niger? While half of the country, the population, the Hausa people, are the same, speak the same language, are the same ethnic group as people in Niger.
Apparently, even Nigeria supplies electricity to Niger.
Yeah,
they themselves don't even have electricity. They don't have lights.
Yeah.
Your light is being sold over across.
Yeah.
Susan is
Uranium.
laughing.
Uranium is
They take the light. They take light.
yeah.
Isn't
Uranium was sold to France because France was controlling the uranium,
it?
and there was no light in Nigeria. Yeah, no light. People don't have light, and the uranium is taken to France. So now those countries, they have decided to become self-sufficient. They have the.
This is the reason we're having power outages in Europe because of Niger.
the uranium, and nowadays they're even planning, and it's going to happen in Burkina Faso, to build nuclear plant in Burkina Faso.
Yes.
Have you heard about it in Africa? It's just something amazing.
South Africa has one.
South Africa has one. Yeah, it's now in West Africa, and a small country like Burkina Faso. You see.
Yeah.
So they're achieving great things.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you very, 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 very much. I think we've learned a lot, and we're soon going to be winding up now. The next 2 to 3 minutes is going to be for any final questions, because this is a discussion that's going to continue. We hope that if you haven't managed to catch us during the live show, that you will come back over the week and the weekend, review, listen, come back with some questions, and join us next week on Wednesday when we're doing the Geopolitics show, and ask Joseph here, otherwise known as Zapayoro, questions. He's very knowledgeable, as you can hear, and it's just a lot of information. I've been lucky to be listening almost every day to him, and so I've got the benefit of, getting ahead of you guys a little bit. So if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, don't worry about it. After some time, it will become second nature, and we will start to learn about each other. Again, one of the problems is that the geopolitics, the actual geographical spread, of our African countries, and the different educational systems, the different colonizers and the different languages have not helped us, number one, to know ourselves, and number two, to know who our neighbors are and what they're going through. So it's time for us to bridge this divide, bridge the gap, and learn about each other, because by learning about each other, we learn about ourselves and the future of our children and their children, because the future is Africa. That's where we have the young population. That's where we have a lot of resources. That is where we still have opportunity to grow. Where other countries have already reached, their apex in terms of development, what they call development, we are just, we're just down here, just trying to be enabled, trying to enable ourselves. So I think the more we can, I think the direction that Ibrahim Traoré is going is what's giving a lot of hope to a lot of young people and older people in Africa.
Yeah, and the Sahel regions, the Sahel countries in general, the fact that this is an example that they are showing that it is possible for African countries, African states, to get over their individual interests and get together.
Yes.
So it's a strong message they're sending. So that's why it is absolutely important for imperialist powers to dismantle the Sahel, because that's not the first time African people
try to dismantle
it.
Yeah.
Let me remind you that in Mali, apart from, I've talked about Thomas Sankara, but before Thomas Sankara, right after independence, there was a Pan-Africanist leader in Mali. His name was Modibo Keïta. Modibo Keïta launched the idea, and he managed to get a few countries together. He created, first Mali was called Sudan, French Sudan, because Sudan al-Sudan means black people, black al-Sudan, so you have al-Sudan, English Sudan, and you have Sudan, French Sudan. So then French Sudan decided to unite with Senegal, Benin. So it was like, imagine from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the Gulf of Guinea. It was a huge territory. But under the pressure of France, Benin just left at some point, and Senegal eventually changed their mind because of a decision that came from France. So that project of creating the Federation of Mali, because they had decided the name would be the Federation of Mali, and Mali was not called Mali, Mali was called Sudan, French Sudan. They took the name from the empire, Mali Empire, because there was a Mali Empire in West Africa, Mali Empire. So they took that name the same way Kwame Nkrumah took the name Ghana, because Ghana was an empire before. Otherwise, Ghana was originally called by the British colonists. It was called Gold Coast. It was called Gold Coast.
Yeah.
So
there you have your map, and everybody can see. I believe I'm sharing the map there. So we can't see ourselves, but we know that we're there. You can see us.
yeah.
But tell us about this map. Now you can use the pointers if you want.
Okay, so what I was just talking about is that this country was called Mali now. It was called, it's Mali now, but it was called French Sudan. They had joined together with Senegal. This is Senegal here. And you had Benin here. And Burkina Faso and Benin. But then those countries left. And eventually it was Mali and Senegal. And Senegal, under the pressure of France, Senegal decided to quit. So Mali found itself, French Sudan found itself alone, and it became Mali. It kept the name Mali. They kept the name Mali. Ghana was Gold Coast, and it kept the name, when Kwame Nkrumah came, it became Ghana, because there was an empire, African empire called Ghana. Okay. So now coming back to just to say that it is not the first time that African countries tried. So they did not succeed in the past. It's a dream that is in the psyche of Africans. And now these three countries are achieving it. Mali, Burkina Faso, you see Burkina Faso, and Niger. So two big countries, Niger and Burkina Faso, and this is Niger, Mali and Niger, and Burkina Faso is here. Central location. So if you hit Burkina Faso, it'll be easy to access those two, Mali and Niger. Yeah. So imagine, this is the Sahel countries, these three countries. 1, 2, 3. Burkina Faso, yeah. But the Sahel stretches from the Atlantic Ocean, this is the desert, all the way to the Red Sea here. So imagine that if Chad is saying that they want to join, if Chad joins, and recently the Malian president started talking with Sudanese president. So if those countries join, you see, a huge country that will stretch all the way to here. Senegal is here. If Senegal joins, Senegal had promised to join under Sonko when he was still an opponent. He promised to join the Sahel countries,
Mauritania?
But it did not. Okay, Mauritania has issues. Mauritania, okay, I'll put it that so simply,
Nigeria.
but Mauritania is an ally of the US, and Mauritania is not really helping those countries. Even Guinea, the country which is here, helped those countries more, although it's also an ally of the US, you know. But the number one ally of the US is this country, Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast, that is threatening Burkina Faso here. Ivory Coast is threatening Burkina Faso here. That's it, yeah. See? So the Sahel is rich. They have resources, all that region. They have resources. It is many plateaus, so you can build railways, you know, to connect from here to here. So you can do a lot of goods can transit, you know, through that. Wow. People can travel, you know. They have gold, they have uranium, it's a very, very, very rich region of Africa. That's Sahel. That's Sahel region, you know. And then if another African country, from the Gulf of Guinea, this is the Gulf of Guinea, joins, they will have direct access to the sea here, where there's a lot of oil. This area, the Gulf of Guinea, also has a lot of petroleum. Yeah. Yeah. So that's it. So just to give you an image, yes. But then the threats nowadays are coming from Ivory Coast, like I said. Of course, Benin also with a puppet. And then Nigeria.
Funny how all the puppets are next to the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. Nigeria as well.
You see,
Nigeria are also threatening Niger. They wanted to go to war. Ivory Coast, Benin, Senegal under Macky Sall, and Nigeria, they wanted to attack Niger.
Mhm.
That's when Mali and Burkina Faso said, okay, if you attack Niger, we consider that you attack us. So all of them joined together to defend Niger. But it was possible, of course, because they have the support of Russia. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. So let me stop sharing and go back to our screen. Yeah, that was quite interesting. So I think on that note, unless Susan has any questions, I think we can wind up and say thank Susan.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, you didn't mention anything about, but I assume maybe it's going to come in the next show, about the influence of the Arab countries like the UAE, whether they affect the geopolitical dynamics of the Sahel region.
Yes.
And, yeah, so I don't know whether that's a big discussion, and maybe we can
Well, no,
move it.
okay, no. It is one of the actors that I should have mentioned. Thank you for reminding me. When I was talking about the foreign actors, USA, France, I should have mentioned the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Yeah, those countries want to have influence in the Sahel region because they are behind terrorist groups there. All the terrorist groups in the Sahel region, even the ones that are in Algeria, because UAE Gulf countries, those Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, they want to have influence in that area. I don't know if you heard a few weeks ago that Saudi Arabia had offered to build 200 mosques in Burkina Faso, and Ibrahim Traoré refused it. He turned it down because he said, if you want to help me develop my country, bring technology instead of bringing mosques. Ibrahim Traoré is a Muslim. He is a Muslim, but still he refused it. Yeah, and he's very open to traditional religions. He decided on one day in Burkina Faso where people celebrate traditional regions. He decided in Burkina Faso that local languages are going to be official languages. See? Yeah. So that's it. So, well, UAE fund, they are the ones funding most terrorist group, UAE, so Saudi Arabia, UAE. I can't say, I don't remember the names of each terrorist group, but you have Al-Qaeda, you have...
we're going to talk about that next
we're going to talk about, So,
yeah, I think because now we're going into terror groups, and this is a YouTube channel, we have to be careful because we have to make sure that all the information is backed by actual documentation so that we don't get into any problems. So I was just going to stop the discussion at this point and just say, okay, it is alleged. You say it is alleged that there are terror groups that are funded by UAE, and we will confirm in the next live session, through our research, and provide the research to you and show you, the source of that information. We're not at all discrediting or even, discrediting the information that's coming from our guests. But on the other hand, we want to just make sure that we don't get ourselves in problems with the YouTube platform. Talking about this issue, we do, at least one of the things I do like now about the platform is that we are free to discuss now. The fact checkers are not as strict as they used to be, but we also need to be as accurate as possible. But yes, we even saw that Elon Musk discovered through Doge that there was some organizations that were funding some of these terror groups, using American taxpayers' dollars. And those are the kinds of things that we need to be discussing on this platform, on this geopolitics platform. Where does the money come from? Where do these weapons come from? And therefore, just to be aware, about these kinds of things. So thank you so much, guys, for your participation. Susan, that was a great question. At the end, I want to say thank you, all of you, for sticking with us. It's been 2 hours. It's been a long time. We'll try to keep it to about an hour and a half, or just about an hour, so that we don't overburden you. But I hope that you'll take some of my viewers are actually listening. they're elsewhere, and they've written to me and they've said, you know what, we're listening in. That's great, because this would be nice as a podcast. You can carry around with you when you're driving, when you're walking, maybe you have a long walk, and just listen, because we are going to educate ourselves a lot on this platform. So thank you so much, Susan, for being with us, and for being our fact checker and reminder, asking the questions that would have been missed. And thank you so much, Joseph. So, guys, we'll see you. Thank you all for watching. Remember to subscribe to the African Queen Mo Cardiff Show. And thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye,
Joseph. I
everybody.
enjoyed that.
Kwaheri.
Yeah.
Kwaheri. Kwaherini. Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michael, for being here. We appreciate you being alone there in the StreamYard section. We really appreciate you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye. Kwaheri. And stream.